Also, everybody says in the comments, Project 2025, didn't you read that? That's his platform.
Hey, Skylar, my name's Will Westmoreland, and I'm a farmer down in southwest Missouri. And I just wanted to reach out to you and tell you that I am not an FAFO kind of guy. We probably disagree with each other on everything political, but there's a very specific reason why people are getting upset with you. And I wanted to explain that to you if you'd be willing to listen to an older guy kind of walk you through the process. Now, I'm not an FAFO guy because I know what's going to happen to poor people, the elderly, children, single moms, and over 250 million people every night around the world that go to bed hungry if the American farmer and rancher is run out of business because of Trump's policies. And that's what I want to explain to you tonight if you'll listen to me. I also wanted to let you know I sent you a private message. And if you ever want to get on the phone and you want to talk about the issues that Trump is forwarding that are bad for agriculture, I'd be willing to do that, and I'd be willing to listen to your arguments as well. I also want to let you know that I've been a political consultant for over 30 years. I want to be right up front about that. I do that in addition to farming. And I want you to know a lot of younger people don't know, and I don't mean that in a condescending way, but more of an educational way. A lot of younger people don't know that right-wing talk radio and news, the pundits, the talking heads, and right-wing talk radio, etc., have been working for over 40 years to develop in rural people exactly the kinds of ideas that you have in your head, that all politicians are crooks, that they're all the same, that you can't trust traditional media, that anything you hear that comes out of Washington, D.C. or New York or the New York Times or CBS News, that it's all a lie. And they did this on purpose, and they started with Ronald Reagan. We used to have what's called a fairness doctrine in this country, where if you were a radio station or a television station and you were using the public airwaves to present a message, we had a fairness doctrine where you were required by law to share the other side of the story. And President Ronald Reagan, who was president when I was in high school and a little bit younger than that, had the fairness doctrine eliminated. He had it taken out of the books. And there was a specific reason for that. It was designed so that organizations like Fox News and right-wing talk radio could start spreading the lie that all mainstream media was bad. Now, this was during the time of Walter Cronkite and Dan Rather, all the other news heads that we had out there that were highly respected. But it was a strategy to make it so that the airwaves no longer had to present an unbiased case. And then these right-wing media sources like Rush Limbaugh and Fox News, etc., began pouring it on to rural America. You can't trust politicians. You can't trust the news. And what they did is they focused on destroying the trust in these institutions so that they could replace it with another institution. And they did that. They replaced it with Fox News. They replaced it with right-wing talk radio. And I can't tell you how many times when I was growing up, when I was your age, I'd walk into a job site or be on a farm and I would hear right-wing talk radio blaring on the radio all day long. And then after they had destroyed our faith in media institutions in rural America, they then turned their guns toward the government itself. And they began building in us a distrust of government organizations. And Skylar, here's the facts, okay? You can look this up on your own, but these are the facts. Rural America uses more welfare than the blue cities do. Rural America needs more help feeding our children. We need more help keeping our hospitals open. And guys like you and I, farmers out there that grow row crops or do agroforestry or raise cattle, we take welfare too. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with that because we can't control the cost of our inputs. We can't control the cost of what we sell our products for. We got to pay for shipping both ways, as Kennedy said. But the reality of the situation is they were able to instill in us the idea that the government money coming to us was okay and was a good thing, but the government money going everywhere else was a scam or a sham or communistic or socialistic, etc. So it reached a fever pitch finally where a lot of rural people, over 70% of rural farmers and ranchers, only believe the Fox Newses and the talk radio. And when they came to you and told you that Trump wasn't going to implement Project 2025 and that he didn't have anything to do with it, you believe that. And you're not alone. All I'm here to tell you is that you were lied to. I'm not asking you to admit you were wrong. I'm not telling you you effed around and found out, because I don't want to see you lose your farm. And if there's anything I can do to help you not lose your farm, I'd be happy to do it. But in the distrust that you built up for government over time, and due to the fact that you didn't think mainstream media was reliable anymore, and you began listening to the news sources that tried to convince you every day that Project 2025 was not a Trump deal, even though many, many people on his campaign worked for Project 2025, they put it together, they helped write it. There was an entire section on agriculture. And in that section on agriculture, they specifically say they're going to cut out programs like this. Then they're going to cut out crop insurance. And Donald Trump is on record, my friend. And Skylar, look this up. Don't take anything I'm telling you at face value. You look it up. That's the difference between me and a lot of people on here. Check what I've said. Make sure I'm not lying to you. But Donald Trump is on record saying that corporate farming is better than small family farms and ranches. And Skylar, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to corporatize agriculture. And I'm not talking about when you and I go out and put together an LLC so that we can get the tax benefits and the protections from liability that come with that. I'm talking about big ag corporations in Wall Street buying up family farms and ranches as they go out of business so that they can turn it into just another investment. In the last 10 years, we've broken every single record in regard to the number of farms and ranches being bought up by investment companies in the United States. And I'd be happy to share all of that data with you. But my friend, I think the worst thing that they did to us in rural America is they convinced us somehow to place the culture wars over our own well-being. And what do I mean by that? Brother, when I was young, you didn't care what anybody did in their bedroom. Gay, lesbian, trans, whatever. That was their life. And the only way the law changed was just to say that you can't discriminate against those people when you're hiring, and you can't commit acts of hate against them because they're different than you and I as heterosexual white men. That's all the law did. And Skylar, did you know that the Southern Baptist Convention, and I was a Southern Baptist for a long time, do you know that the Southern Baptist Convention had its own clauses in their charter that said that abortion was okay in the event that it saved the life of the mother or the child might be deformed? But it was political hacks in the religious Christian movement that came in and politicized the abortion topic in order to get folks like you and I in rural America to turn against it. So I'm not here to tell you FO, brother. I know how hard you work every day, and I know what you're trying to do for your family because I'm doing the same thing. And you may listen to what I have to say, and you may just think this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. But I hope you'll listen to it with an open mind, and I hope you'll double check and research what I've told you. Because the truth of the matter is we've been lied to. So at this stage, I'm not even asking you to say you were wrong. I'm just asking you to admit that you were lied to. Trump was forwarding Project 2025. He just hired the guy to oversee cost and contracts in the federal government that wrote Project 2025. We were lied to, my friend. And nobody's going to judge you if you just admit that you were lied to and you made decisions based on the fact that you thought these contracts were going to be kept and that you were lied to. And then the next step is get involved with us to fight back. It doesn't make you a Democrat. It doesn't make you a turncoat. It just means you see wrong when it occurs and you fight back against it. Anyway, I hope that makes sense, and have a great day. Farmers and ranchers around the country are waiting with bated breath to see if the Trump administration is going to release critically needed funds that were set aside to help farmers and ranchers improve their operations around the country. Hi guys, welcome to the Back 40. My name's Will, and let's talk about it. Recently, I did a video speaking to a young rancher about the many dominoes that have fallen over the last 40 years that have led to rural America, for the most part, voting against its best interest. But I've been waiting to see how our local politicians would respond to the actions of the Trump administration, actions that are critically harming farmers and ranchers in our state. Now, any of you that have watched my videos know that I don't lose my temper very often, but I've got to be honest with you. What I saw today gave me what my grandpa would have called a case of the serious red ass.
But it's all going to work out. Right now, it's a little bit disruptive, but that's what this administration promised whenever they were coming to Washington.
For those of you that don't know, that's Jason Smith, and he's a Republican congressman from the state of Missouri. I guess when you've got a guaranteed government paycheck and 3 squares a day that you know are never going to end, it's easy to lob a turd into another man's punch bowl. Well, Jason, I've got a few things to say to you. When a farmer or rancher is facing the loss of their family farm or ranch because they spent money that the federal government promised that they were going to reimburse, it's all going to work out is not the policy response that they're looking for. Jason, maybe some of you rural Congress people haven't spent enough time in your district lately, because you should know that in rural America, when we make a promise, we do everything to keep it, especially in the farming and ranching industry. And when a farmer plants his crop in the spring, he's asked to sign a contract to buy his seed. He's asked to sign a contract to buy his fertilizer. All throughout the year, he's asked to sign a contract for the inputs he needs to keep pests and weeds out of his crop. And in the end, he's asked to sign a contract to determine what price his commodities will sell for. Over and over again, the American farmer and rancher is asked to sign a piece of paper that requires him or her to keep their word, no matter what. And the consequences? The consequences not only mean the difference between profit and loss, they can mean the difference between keeping or losing your family farm. So my question to any politician right now supporting these policies of the Trump administration is simply this. Why do we as American citizens, especially as farmers and ranchers, have to live by a different set of rules than you do? Why are we asked to keep our commitment and our word when you're not doing the same thing for us? Now, rural America, I want to say something directly to you, and I hope you'll listen with an open mind. As I've said many times before, I'm not asking any of you to admit that you were wrong. I'm just asking you to admit that you were lied to. I've said it before and I'm going to say it again now, rural America. Our focus on the culture wars have led to us not electing politicians that stand up for the best interest of rural America. And it's also prevented us from holding accountable the very politicians like Congressman Smith who made promises to rural America that they're breaking right now as we speak. Fighting the culture wars for the politicians in Washington, D.C., and the crooked televangelists on television all over this country doesn't do a single thing to build a fence on our farms and ranches. It doesn't do a single thing to build a stock tank on our farms and ranches. It doesn't do a single thing to improve the quality of the soil on our farms and ranches. And it doesn't do a single thing to keep our kids at home once they graduate from college to carry on the Lord's work of farming our farms and ranches. Now, rural America, here's your last history lesson for the day. There was a time in this country where the Midwest, Kansas, Nebraska, Missouri, Iowa, all throughout the Midwest, we were a hotbed of liberal, progressive farmer activism in this country. We knew the difference between the gilded tower and the farmhouses and sod houses that we all lived in. We knew who was looking out for us and who was fighting for our best interests. And over time, these culture wars and the lies that we've been told as a result of these culture wars have caused us to lose sight of the issues that are really important to us. And that's fairness in farming and ranching. It's the ability to control, better than we can now, the cost of inputs, the cost of what we sell our products for, and more control over the entire process itself. Many of you probably don't know that farmers used to march in the streets in the cities in Kansas and Missouri and Iowa and Nebraska to stand up against the oligarchies of their day that were forcing them to live like paupers on their own farms. It's time for us to do that again. There's no doubt about it in my mind. And we have to do that together, regardless of political ideology or political persuasion. So now is the time, while tough decisions are being made for us by politicians who intend not to keep their word, for us to make our own tough decisions ourselves. Are we going to put the culture wars behind us and to begin to vote for politicians that understand rural policies and will keep their word when they make a promise to us as farmers and ranchers? I hope so, because without it, it's only going to get worse. And in the end, we're going to have a country whose landscape is covered by corporate farms owned by Big Ag and Wall Street. And my friends, if that happens, the epitaph on the tombstone covering the graves of all of the small farms and ranches in the United States of America will simply read, "You were warned and you chose not to listen." Have a great day. Well, Elon Musk just stood in the way of billions of dollars of help for farmers and ranchers in America, and there's not a damn thing they can do about it. My name's Will, and I'm your favorite rural campaign and elections expert. Let's talk about it. I had to step into the truck to make this video because the wind is blowing hard here on the farm in southwest Missouri. But it's not the only thing that's blowing hard these days. So is the Republican commitment to small family farms and ranchers. I already made a video in the last couple of days that explained the opposing plans of Republicans and Democrats to help farmers and ranchers. The Democrats wanted a much more robust plan that would have added $20 billion every year to the farm bill going forward. The Republicans opposed that because that's what Republicans do. They give lip service to small farmers and ranchers, but they never come through in a pinch. So we ended up getting the smaller Republican plan without the long-term guarantees. And instead of raising hell about the fact that we were shortchanged in the matter, we did what we always do. We saluted and said, "Thank you, sir, may I have another?" And Elon Musk decided to step up and do just that, serve us another. Rather than passing the short-term spending bill that the Republicans and Democrats had agreed upon, you guessed it, Speaker Johnson reached out to this invisible committee that was never elected, has never been appointed, has never had its day in front of the Senate, and asked Elon Musk if it was okay to carry forward with the bill. And what did he say? He said no, because he has absolutely no understanding at all as a billionaire, worth $400 billion the last time I checked, what it means to try to run a small family farm. So yesterday, the spending bill was put on hold at Elon Musk's request, and now that relief that was going to come for small farmers and ranchers isn't going to come anymore. And we've only got one day to fix the problem. And then we've got real problems. Now, I'm going to say it until I'm blue in the face, and I'm going to say it until you don't want to hear it anymore. Republicans are not looking out for our best interest, and it's time for us to hold them accountable. Now, I'm just a small farmer, but I still voted for Harris in this last election. And I did so because I care about the farming industry in this country. And I know which party has guaranteed the rights of foreign companies and foreign governments to buy American farmland. And it wasn't the Democrats. I know which party has stood up to give the greatest number of subsidies to farmers who can't set their own prices. And it was the Democrats. Now it's time for us to stand up and do the right thing as farmers and ranchers. It's crunch time, and those of you who are conservative can't let the culture wars stand in the way anymore of doing the right thing in regard to what's good for farmers and ranchers as a whole. Elon Musk is going to be awful for American farmers and ranchers. The tariffs are going to be awful for American farmers and ranchers. Mass deportations are going to be awful for American farmers and ranchers. And if you care at all about preserving farms and ranches, especially small farms and ranches in this country, then you better step up and do your part and leave the culture wars behind. Because crunch time is here, and a decision needs to be made now. That's the news from the Back 40. I'm Will, and I hope you have a great day.